Hello future me and everybody who likes to follow along. I'm Lumi Venderstorm and this week I made Celestis' head. Celestis is the name that I have been calling this project for myself, so I will be referring to it as that from here on out. Over the span of 3.5 days I made this hat. Let me take you on the adventure of how I made it. I started with research, watching a bunch of videos of other people making witch hats. I already made 2 witch hats before, but it's been a while. On Tuesday I start drawing out a pattern with frozen pizza cardboard. My budget already practically ran out, so I want to save money wherever I can. The frozen pizza cardboard is flexible enough to be used to bend and hack together a cardboard prototype. I take measurements to decide what I want the inner circumference of the head to be. It's not something that requires a lot of focus, so I can voice chat with friends in the meantime. I try out the cardboard cutout of the head brim to see if I like it, but it sounds like I did in fact not like it.
Why? Why did I decide to do this stupid project?
I know guys, I don't fucking know. I am already having my breakdown. I don't know how to continue. Fine, okay, it's fine. It's fine. Oh, I don't have time for this. I do have time for this.
You could say I'm a little dramatic sometimes, but you can also just keep it to yourself. Leave me alone. I did finish the first draft of the pattern that day. Looks pretty decent. On Wednesday, I'm already stopped in my tracks because I'm having a hard time getting to the workspace and keeping it organized. I truly cannot start for real before I completely turn around my workspace. So I'm going all out. Try turning on the vacuum maybe, please. Good job.
Oh, hier. Oh. Oh, neem je het nu op?
Ja.
Did I mention this week is a heat wave again? Okay, we're starting for real now. Here's what I collected before the start. My serger, sewing machine, steam iron, measuring tools, needles, thimbles and scissors, pins and clasps, thin rope, aluminum wire, fusible interfacing, blanket batting, cotton for mock-ups, the fabrics I think I'll be needing, and of course the pattern that I previously made. Something is missing though. Can't forget about my fabric scissors on my seam ripper. I start with making 2 test batches to help me decide what fabrics to go with. For both batches I cut out a piece of the batting. I cut a piece of velvet and I cut a piece of minky. Then I cut out the top fabric. Both pieces also get a piece of fusible interfacing. I pin each individual patch without the top fabric. Alright, ready to machine sew this together when I get the sewing machine set up. How am I do this? Victory! Actually, first I have to decide how much space will be between the embroidered lines. Referencing the original drawing, I mark out how I want the lines to look on the brim pattern. Then I mark it on the patch and hand stitch it with a temporary basting thread to keep it in place without pins. Ta-da! Feels weirdly papery, but okay. I sew the stay stitching by machine and it looks nice. I give the other patch the same treatment. And then it occurs to me. It feels papery because there's paper on it. It's a protective paper that helps you fuse your application to the interfacing before you fuse it to what you want it on. I won't be needing it like that, as I will fuse everything together in one go, but the paper is still there. Yes, yeah, on both of them. Oh man, you already had a breakdown. Maybe just time for a break this time? Good idea. And we're back. I rip all the seams on the patches, remove the paper from the fusible interfacing, then hand paste and machine sew again. Yeah, that's much better. I lay down the top layer on both patches and line them up so I can fuse them. This is the first time I'm using this stuff, if you hadn't guessed yet. It seems to work exactly as I hoped though. Moving on to the embroidery. I'm using a golden embroidery thread from DMC. It's awful to use in normal embroidery, but I think I can manage a straight line. Yeah, that looks alright. Next up in the list is bias tape. I want a neat finish with the golden line, and I need to cover the extra fabric of the golden piping with bias tape. I tried 2 types of golden piping. This dull one is my favorite, but we'll see which one is easier to work with. I took this second golden fabric from a thrift find a couple months ago. It turned out to be great quality. Truly a lucky find. Piping is hard to do, but it's even harder if you don't have a piping food. I was very sure I had a piping food, but now I can't find it. Super bummed out I consider buying a piping food online. I really want that golden brim edge. So I'm doing some research and wait a second. Yeah, no, I do have a piping food. Great, on to making the piping then. That's the first one. The second one is much harder to work with. I'm not happy with that. This is them next to each other. For both patches I carefully pin the piping and the bias tape on, then I machine sew. And after that I hand sew the bias tape down. I cut the piping to length and the patches are done. This first patch is made of a minky fabric for the black and the dull gold for the piping. It's nice, but the piping is not very shiny. The second patch is made of velvet and the shinier golden piping. It matches the embroidery much better and I love the contrast between the shiny gold and the deep black of the velvet. I also decided on a double embroidery row for a more solid golden line. Day 3, Thursday. I didn't like the oval shape for the brim I had originally made, so I redrew the pattern with a circle for the brim instead, while keeping the head hole oval. I cut out layers for the brim, the top layer, the batting and the fusible interfacing. Now that I understand better how valuable double fusible interfacing is, I try to save as much of it as possible. I have a feeling this is gonna come in handy a lot later down the line. I pinned the batting and the interfacing to the velvet, because I don't trust the velvet to stay in place ever. You know what I'm talking about if you ever worked with velvet. I temporarily hand baste everything together so the velvet won't move while I machine sew the stay stitches. I take out all the temporary basting and then actually trim the head round. Time for the piping. I'll need a bigger mat to cut these strips though. I cut a little extra length just to be sure. I cut the rope to length and sewed the piping. It actually went a lot better than the first time. I pinned the bottom layer, piping and top layer together. After a sip of water, I machine sew the thing. I take out all the pins again and turn it inside out, or outside out really. I'm happy with how the piping looks. After a little finessing, I managed to get the aluminum wire where I want it. Then I can fuse the layers together. Anyone feeling like pancakes all of a sudden? I could really do with a pancake now. I cut the head opening out. Embroidering these lines took me 2.5 hours, but I do feel they're worth it. Now I move on to the cone. I don't want a plain old cone, as you already saw, so I mess around with the pattern. I make a mock-up version, and when I'm happy with it, I move on to the real deal. I cut out the outer layer of the cone pattern and sew it together. To fortify it, I used a second cotton mock-up I made and plan to fuse the two together with fusible interface. I quickly realized how impossible it is going to be to put the fusible between the two layers while sewn, so I ripped them both and fused them flat. Then I sew them together as a whole and proceed to pin them to the brim. Nice. Hand sewing this together takes forever and it's really boring, so I cut all of it out. Another well spent day. Day Friday. I make lining for the head, stuff the cone and sew the lining and the sweatband into the head. This process also took forever and is also very boring. Maybe that's why I adjusted the light setup halfway. Or maybe that's because I was hand sewing black on black inside a hat. And it's finished! Now, it looks great and it fits perfectly. But, and it's a big but, only when I don't wear a wig. All of my motivation disappeared like snow before the sun. Until I remembered magnets. So after dinner I jumped onto my bike and rode to my closest hardware store. They had a good variety of magnets and I bought a bunch so I could try different strengths. I also felt I deserved a treat. This is what my workspace looked like after cleaning up. I fiddled around with some ideas for jewelry to add to the hat later, and in the morning I had a bunch of extra stuff collected. So when I find the time in between things, I'll be working on fixing that on the hat. This morning I also tried the magnets and they work! The hat stays on the wig comfortably and sturdy enough. If I get time, I'll try to fix it to a headband to hide the magnets under extra decoration. Thank you all again so much for watching this video series. I'm really getting the hang of editing videos, even though it will probably always be hard for me to decide what to leave out. I think I kept it pretty reasonable for this video though. What do you think? Alright, see you next week.